But now, when you have an employee that they don't want to accept the knowledge that you're giving them, or one of your supervisors or one of your managers is giving them, that's a problem, right? Because they're not going to excel the way they want to. You have a lot of people in this life that they want to excel in whatever it is, but they don't want to take the proper journey to get there. And the proper journey usually means acquiring knowledge along the way, thereby growing at each level on each step. Knowledge. You know, when a person looks at me, I meet a person for the first time, and it's not just because I have my hair dread. Okay, it's just not it. It's the color of my skin. 9 times out of 10, a person will meet me, and I appear to them as your quintessential so-called black man. And don't get me wrong, I am a so-called black man. But in my DNA composition, my mother's Puerto Rican and my father's a so-called black man. So I'm basically half Puerto Rican and I'm half so-called black. Do you know how many times I tell a person or different people that I'm half Puerto Rican and they don't accept it? As if like I say that because, oh, I want to be half Puerto Rican. And 9 times out of 10, they don't say it outright, but you could tell in the look, how they look at me, as if I'm trying to pull one over on them, or you can, or especially amongst my Puerto Rican brothers and sisters, they'll tell the next Puerto Rican that doesn't know me, oh yeah, he's Boricua, he's Boricua, and I could tell in the way they're telling the other person that it's in the form of, can you believe that? It's in the form of like, can you believe that? That he's Puerto Rican? If that's what I told you, that's what I am. I'm not. I'm I'm not a kid. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm telling. That's the truth. And I didn't tell you that so that you could think differently of me. 9 times out of 10, it came up in the conversation. I don't run around the street saying that, but I know a lot of times when I tell individuals that, I get a certain particular look. Well, the whole reason why I'm mentioning that is because when I tell an individual that, I'm giving them the truth about my composition, what I'm made out of, you know? I'm giving them knowledge about myself, and it's the truth. But a lot of times it's not accepted, but I'm giving the knowledge. And brothers and sisters out there, all we can do is share the knowledge. That's all we can do. Most people won't accept it. And I really got to think, man, as I go through this life and as I continue to traverse this life, and I analyze things and I analyze individuals, I really got to think that it's not just the scriptures, it's just life. Because for you to accept knowledge, you have to, in some way, humble yourself, right? You have to, in some way, humble yourself. Even when you go to college, you have to humble. It takes a certain amount of patience, humbling of yourself, to sit down for 2.5 to 4 hours at times, listening to a professor and taking in knowledge. If a person is not willing to do that, if a person thinks that the teacher or the professor should cut their sessions in half, or maybe even do it on their time, then well, you're gonna have a problem. 9 times out of 10, you're not gonna earn that degree. You're not gonna earn that degree because you don't have the mental fortitude to humble yourself to be able to gain the knowledge needed to acquire that degree to go forth and better yourself in life. So what's going to happen? You're going to stay stagnant. You're going to stay stagnant. My people die for lack of knowledge. You know, when you go to a Google search or you go to search that in the scriptures or where it's written in the scriptures, they'll give you O'Shea. They'll throw things at Jeff. If you ask Google, where's that located in the scriptures? They'll give you Hosea, okay? And it's in the book of Hosea. And then they start throwing at you Jeremiah, Proverbs, Romans. But it's not the same exact scripture. It's other different scriptures that they give you that's along that line. And then you ask Google, well, where did Yahusha say it in the scriptures? Where did he say it at? Or more properly put, 9 times out of 10, you have to ask, where did Jesus say it? And they say, and it comes back to you in Google that Jesus never said it. In other words, Yahusha never said it, but I know he said it. It was him who said it in Hosea, speaking through Hosea in the spirit, or to Hosea in the spirit. But when he was in the flesh, he also said it, my people perish for lack of knowledge. He said it, it's in the New Testament. I know, because I have knowledge that it's in there. I read it. Not only one time, more than once I've come upon it. But brothers and sisters, I know so many scriptures in my head. I remember, one of the things when I found out that I was created to be a teacher in the word of Elohim, the word of God. One of the things that I thought of was that I know the scriptures, but I don't know chapters and verses like that. And the Lord quickly dispelled that thought from my mind when he said to me that, well, when I came, did I give chapters and verses? And the answer to that is no. He just spoke what the scriptures said. So it's a lot of times I'm doing sessions and I'm blurting out scriptures, and it may not even be verbatim, but it's in the book. But when you ask Google, where did the Messiah say that at in the New Testament? Google will tell you he didn't say it. He never said it. That's only in Hosea. And again, they'll throw you other scriptures like it. And I always wonder about that. I always wonder why, when you ask Google certain things, it doesn't tell you. And I want to say this too. Knowledge. when I research things now, there's something strange going on. Because years ago, when I would research, I would find certain knowledge. I would write it down. I remember years ago doing sessions on the. And I noticed today, when I go to do research online in your search engines, it doesn't give me the information that it used to give me. It used to get a plethora of information when I used to search things about the word of God, and not just the word of Elohim, but also history, just history. A lot of it is not there no more. So AI is out there cleaning things up, getting rid of things that it does not want you to see. Knowledge. Knowledge puffeth up. You feel me? Knowledge puffeth up. Makes you strong. You understand? Powers that be, they don't want you strong. AI does not want you strong. Knowledge. You know, back in the days, um, they make movies and cartoons and books, whatever, about witches and warlocks, like it was just fantasy, or like it's just fantasy. And growing up as kids, that's how those things was presented to us. But then when you research and you gain knowledge, you find out that witches are true. They're as true today as they was in the past, as they were in the past. Warlocks are true. They're as true today as they were in the past. The magic wand is true. I always tell, a lot of times I'll mention in my sessions about the looking glass. I say that, you know what, computer screens are looking glasses. TVs are looking glasses. Laptop, tablets, phones. A phone ain't nothing but a magic wand. A phone ain't nothing but a magic wand. Chatbot ain't nothing but a scrying mirror. Remember back in the days, what was her name? Cinderella? Or was it Cinderella? Or was it the one with the seven dwarfs where the witch would look into the mirror and say, "Mirror, mirror on the wall, who's fairest of them all?" And the mirror would talk back to her. So she would ask the mirror a question, and the mirror would answer her back with so-called what she took as truth. Well, that's how it is today with chatbots, with Google, AI. You go in your scrying mirror and you asking it a question, and it's answering you back. Everybody relax. Just take it easy. Just take it easy. I'm not saying that we're so much as doing something so bad. Paul spoke about that in his writings. Because if he said to take you away from that, you got to be taken out of the world. But it's good to have knowledge about what's going on. You know, I mentioned Isaiah, lack of knowledge, that they took away the key of knowledge. That's also in the book of Luke, in the 11th chapter. And like the ending of the 50 something verse, 52nd verse, but they took away the key of knowledge. And they've taken away the key of knowledge today as well. They've taken away the key of knowledge for thousands of years. And I'm afraid to say, brothers and sisters, that I believe that we're coming to the end of an age. We're starting to come to the end of the age of knowledge. We're coming into the age of AI. I mean, we've been in the age of AI for a minute now, but we're coming into a point and getting to a point where AI is taking over. We get into that point, and we got to be careful. We got to continue to thrive in the word of God, the word of Elohim. We got to continue to strive forward to gain knowledge. Let me holler at you for a second. When you talk to let's talk about myself, okay? I mean, I'm not a troublemaker, but yeah, I'm a trouble. I'm not a troublemaker, but yeah, I'm a trouble. Because with me, it's not just that individuals are making a mistake praying to the Father of Jesus. You're not, I'm not there with it. I'm to the 100 power with it. Okay. Like when I tell you that Jesus is the Antichrist outright. I tell you right away that Jesus is not Yahusha. I tell you that the masses are being lied to and everyone is being duped. You're being tricked. And it's such a big lie that even when you tell people the true name of the Messiah, they don't care. They start speaking about their own doctrine and talking about how God knows who they're talking to and da da da, this, and that. But I'm telling you that Jesus is a totally different dude. He's totally disparate from Yahusha. Totally disparate from Yahusha. He's a totally different dude. He's the savior and the Messiah of the masses. He's the Christos. He's the Christ of the masses. His doctrine is not in this book. His name is Jesus. That's not the name of the Messiah. The name of the Messiah is Yahusha. He gave Hosea his name in the book of Exodus because Hosea will be named Joshua and he will lead them into the promised land. So he's like a Messiah figure. When you read the books of Ezra, you read Nehemiah, you read about another Joshua. When they're talking in the book of Malachi, I believe. In the book of either Malachi or Zechariah. You read about another Joshua. when the Lord said, is this not a brand that's been pulled out of the fire? It's either Malachi or Zechariah. I don't know. I don't come. I'm not here to read the scriptures. That's why you see my head covered. Okay. And the Lord tells you in that book that he was a type of Messiah as well. He's going to bring the people into the promised land. Jesus carries a totally different doctrine. He wants people to worship him on his birthday. He wants you to worship his consort, Ishtar, on Easter. He says that you don't have to follow the commandments. He believes in as above, so below. You can see him in the pictures with two fingers pointing down and two fingers pointing up. He's a totally different dude. Now, knowledge. People will understand where I'm coming from if they had knowledge of the past. If they had knowledge of the people of the book, right? That the Hebrews, it's a predominantly dark-skinned race of people, all 12 tribes. We come in many different shades. As we've gone forward over the couple of thousand years, we've mingled with other races. So right now we're in the four corners of the world, and we come in many different colors. Many different colors. Knowledge. If people knew who the people of the book was, and then they knew that our people, at one point, we went to war with the Romans and the other nations. And what the Romans and the other nations did to our country. And how they stole our writings. In the scriptures, it tell you the word of Elohim wasn't for the other nations. Knowledge. In the scriptures, it tells you that. Those letters, this scriptures were not given to another nation. It was given to the Hebrews. That should be kind of easy to understand. Knowledge. You ain't never heard a Jew, a so-called Caucasian Jew of today, and this is just my opinion, and this is just for entertainment purposes only, okay? And it's my opinion. You ain't never heard a so-called Caucasian Jew call themselves a Hebrew. You ain't never heard it. You ain't never heard them say that they connected to the Hebrews. You ain't never heard them saying what tribe they come from. You ain't never heard that. Because they're not Hebrews. They're not Hebrews. And the Hebrews are the chosen people. Knowledge. If people knew the story and what happened, then when we speak the truth, people would understand us. If people knew what the Romans did to the Hebrews, the Romans and the other nations, and how they stole the writings of the Hebrews, and how they built the church on something they stole, you would ask the question, and your question would be, how could their church be divine? if they built it on something that was stolen. You ever seen and again, knowledge. I come out and I'm telling you certain things, and I'm saying certain things with the hope that you'll take in what I'm telling you and write things down. And you could take this, you could pass this recording to your friends, family, whatever. Pass it out, push it out there. You ever checked out, when you get a chance, check out the Arch of Titus. ARCH, the Arch of Titus. Titus was a Roman emperor during the time when Jerusalem was conquered by the Romans and the other nation. Check out the Arch of Titus. It was erected in 81 CE. In other words, 81 AD. It was erected. Check out that arch. When you look at that archway and you look on it, it shows you a picture of the Hebrews, which you clearly see it's a dark-skinned race of people. It shows you all the stuff that they took from the temple. It shows you all the gold that they took. There's pictures etched in the stone. They show you, it shows them carrying away all the writings from the temple. Yo, they're like carrying all the writings away, the parchments and stuff. They're carrying it all away. You know what else it shows? The Ark of the Covenant. They're carrying the Ark of the Covenant away, which at that time it had no power because God's Elohim's glory had left it already because he turned his back on his people. But it shows everything on the archway. So when you get a chance, Google the arch or the archway of Titus. It was erected in 81 CE or 81 AD as a memorial to the conquering and the destruction that they did to Israel, to Jerusalem, to our country. It shows slaves being taken away with ropes around, being nappy head people being taken away. That's how we're depicted on the archways. Big noses with beady hair. It shows how they murdered people on that archway. But go take a look at that archway. And do yourself a favor. Read the War of the Jews. It's called the Jewish Wars by Flavius Josephus. Brothers and sisters, knowledge is key. And knowledge is everything. Knowledge is key and knowledge is everything. In my last session, my last Sabbath convocation, my brother brought up a good point. My brother brought up a good point, and I love him to death, man. Usually he speaks his mind, and he doesn't care if people don't like it or not. He speaks his mind, and Elohim bless him, because when you shut your mouth and you don't speak your mind, you don't speak your truth, what good are you? And everything should be open for conversation. We're human beings. We were created to conversate, especially amongst the church. But he brought up a good point. Um, he said something like, "What are you going to do if you're walking and you're minding your business, and some Caucasian dude out of nowhere call you nigger?" And now, I spoke to him and I gave him the quintessential answer as a teacher of the scriptures, as a teacher of what Yahweh has told us in regards to our conduct, okay, and in regards to us humbling ourselves. And basically, I said, I'm going to hear it. Maybe I'll say something bad. Maybe 9 times out of 10, no, I'll probably just laugh and I'll just walk away. And I know my brother was thinking something totally different about what he's going to do. Nah. When you know better, you do better. The word nigga, okay, it has an etymology to it like every other word. It comes from someplace, right? Before the flood of Noah, Niger or Niger, Niger, meant landlord. It meant Lord. The etymology of the word nigger is from the Latin word Niger, Niger, and it just means black. That's all it means. Over thousands and thousands and thousands of years, the word was used as an endearing term. So because during this time, the so-called Caucasian man, actually he started it during the 1500s. They started taking the word and slandering it. To as now, when a person from another race says it, because if your brothers say, "What up, nigga? What up, Naga?" It may sound funny. "What up, Naga? What up, Naga?" It might sound funny, but that's the true etymology of the word Niger. Niger, from the Latin Niger, and it just means black, used for black man, a dark-skinned man. And it, again, over millennium, it was an endearing word. And then the so-called other races, they took it over the last 500, 600 years, and they slandered it. So now when a so-called Caucasian or any race other than the so-called black man turns and calls the so-called black man a nigger, we up in arms. But knowledge dictates that for longer than for millennia, the word has been an endearing term. Look it up. Look it up. Look at the etymology of the word Niger or nigger. Look it up. No reason to get mad. Because the fact of the matter is they slander it and they use it, but they have no knowledge of the word, where the word comes from and what it truly means. To be Niger was royalty. In the ancient world, the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice. In the ancient world, what they will call the so-called black man, the purple man or the blue man, knowledge. That means you are godly. See, when you don't have a knowledge of the world that you live in, many things seem obscure. Any rational thinking person that that will find out that Rome stole the scriptures from the Hebrews. They stole it. It wasn't theirs. They took it. They took it. And then a few hundred years later, a couple of hundred years later, they used it and they built a church and they put the name of their God in it. Because no man, no man could write this. No man could write this without the breath of Elohim telling them to write it. No man, you can't make this up. You cannot make this up. This is like a puzzle that was put together over the span of like 8,000 years, maybe even 10,000 years, if you include the writings of Enoch, the book of Yashar. No man can make this. This is not something someone could sit down and write. And if not to insult nobody, man, because I love everybody, man. But let me holler at y'all, man, because oh man, if you believe that man could sit down and write this, if you're one of those people that believe that the scriptures contradict itself, then you don't have knowledge. And if you say you read it, I read it cover to cover, you didn't really read. You didn't have no understanding. You didn't have no understanding. And this is not meant to be read without the spirit guiding you. Elohim has to really be dealing with you. And you have to have the spirit guiding you in order to understand this book. And when I say understand it, I mean your spiritual and your physical mind being opened by the creator for you to have the mental and spiritual fortitude to be able to see and understand what it's saying and to hold and retain it. That comes from Elohim, from Yahweh, from the creator. So anybody that's saying that, it contradicts itself, man wrote it, blah, 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 they don't know what they're talking. But to understand the fact that this was stolen and they built a church on it. I don't know how you can steal the word of Elohim and then build something holy on something that is stolen. You broke the commandment. You broke the law of Elohim when you took it. So now if you understand that, and then you see things like Jesus in there instead of Yahusha, you know that was done on purpose. If you sit back and you look at, if you sit back and you look at the world and you look at things, and you look at holidays, you would understand that it's blasphemous. Because in the scriptures, it tells you to stay away from man's traditions. You would understand a lot of things if you understood history. And certain things wouldn't be so obscure to you. Certain things would not be so obscure to you. You know, back to the word Niger, okay? Because I really wanted to get that out. I mean, I've said this years ago. I spoke about this, but since it popped up the other day, I want to speak about that again. When Yahushua was carrying his cross, right? There was a dude named Simon, Simon of Cyrene, and they took him to help him to help Yahushua carry that cross. Remember that in the scriptures? Simon of Cyrene was called Niger or nigger. That was like a nickname for him because he was a dark skin. He was very dark. Cyrene is from North Africa. The city Cyrene, let me tell you something, this is going to kill you, okay? Knowledge. Cyrene or Cyrene, which is how it would have been pronounced in the Latin tongue, right? Serene today, Cyrene in the Latin, right? Is a city out of North Africa. So he was obviously a Hebrew. He was a lost sheep of Israel from North Africa. What is now called Libya today. Libya, Cyrene or Cyrene. It's now called Libya today. But that's North Africa. When you go on Wikipedia to look him up, this individual, Simon of Cyrene or Cyrene, they have him as a white man carrying the cross. Well, if he's a white man, why was he called Naka in the scriptures? He appears in 3 of the Gospels. He appears in Matthew, Mark, and Luke. And then in Luke gives you the breakdown when he's writing the book of Acts. In the book of Acts, around the 13th chapter in the book of Acts, you get the breakdown of him. He was called Nika or Niger, whichever way you want to say it, because the only reason why the extra G was entered is to get the pronunciation from the Latin to the English. Niger turned it to Neka. Same word. That's where the word comes from. But he was a so-called black man. Knowledge. Knowledge. Simon of Cyrene to help Yahushua with the cross. He was a northern African man. He was in Israel for the Passover, meaning he was a lost sheep of Israel. And after that, he stayed. Him, Barnabas, Saul, which was Paul, he stayed. They did the work of the Lord, preaching and all that. But when you go to Wikipedia, if you don't have that knowledge, you're going to see a white man carrying the cross with their Jesus. And why? Because the Christ that they give you is a so-called white man. The heaven that they promise people is a so-called white heaven. Knowledge. Real quick before I sign off, I want to share something else with you because I never was into history like that until the Lord called me. when the Lord called me, it would be necessary, and I've been walking with the Lord. He called me almost 30 years now. It will be necessary for me to have knowledge in many things, and knowledge takes time. So, but you got to start somewhere. You know, the humble yourselves. Humble yourselves. When you look at the so-called Caucasian, try to humble yourselves and understand that the so-called Caucasian has not been in rulership a long time. You know how many years they were slaves? And they weren't slaves because they were taken so much as taken into slavery. Of course, some of them was in conquerings and things of that nature. Absolutely. But the Caucasian man has not been in rulership for a long time. And a lot of people don't really know that. They didn't start coming down from the caves and the mountains of Japheth. I don't know, man. Definitely AD. Definitely AD. A lot of the things that you read about and they show you in the history, whether it be the Greeks, the first Greeks, and the first Egyptian, things of that nature, these different nations, most of those nations were so-called dark-skinned races of people. And now it's the Gentiles' time. You remember when you go into the genealogy, okay, when you go into the genealogy in the book of Genesis, right? And you talk about it's the Lord starts giving you a breakdown of the sons of Noah. When it comes to Japheth, it tells you that he's the Gentiles. And the scripture that speaks about the times of the Gentiles. That means the sons of Japheth. And I'm going to highlight y'all and tell you a lot of knowledge. Knowledge. Because when you study the word of God, the word of Elohim, it'll shatter a lot of different things that you have been told in your life. The truth will shatter it. And I'm gonna tell you, brothers out there who have knowledge, okay, those of you in the back of the room who believe you have knowledge, the white man was not cursed with his complexion. Neither did the white man come from an experiment. Neither was he cursed with leprosy. Neither did he come from an experiment. There's nothing new under the sun. The so-called white man has been there from the beginning. And I'm gonna kill it for you, okay? Just like Esau, it must have been the Caucasian that got the so-called black man thinking that Esau is a white man. It had to have been the Caucasian that did that. Because my black brothers and sisters really believe that the white man is Esau. And how is that? You really need to, hashtag study more, man. Hashtag study more. When you read about Esau, read about the first things that he did. Read about the the wives that he took. Read about it. He didn't go up to the mountains and take wives from Japheth. He took wives from the Hamites, black race of people. The Assyrians, these were black races, dark skinned races of people. That's why you see the complexion of them in the land today over in Israel. knowledge. Before I sign off, I'm going to give you this. Okay? Remember, Eve was crafted out of the rib that came out of Adam. What color is the rib? What color is the rib? Okay? She wasn't crafted out of the dust of the earth. She is crafted out of the bone. What color is the bone? You know, if you took a rock, if you took a giant stone and you fabricated a throne out of a giant stone, what color is the throne going to be? What color is that giant chair, that throne? What color is it going to be? It's going to be the same color as the rock. It's going to the rock that you made it from. It's not going to change its color. And isn't the argument for Adam being a so-called black man because he was molded out of the dust of the earth? So when you make the argument, you say the dust is what? Dark. Dust is dark red or dark brown or whatever. That's why you know Adam's a so-called black man. It's the same thing with Eve. And I'll give you something else, okay? When Noah was born, his father was afraid of him when he was a baby. His father thought he was a fallen angel or his wife laid with an angel. Something was wrong because when his son Noah was born, the room shined. Noah was born in a sack. When they cut the sack open, he shined like the sun, and he was as white as snow. He was as white as snow, and he shined like the sun. Did you hear what I said? Did you not hear what I said? Do you ascribe to the book of Enoch or you don't ascribe? Because now you don't want to ascribe to it, right? When you read the story of Noah's birth and they cut the sack open, he shines like the sun. His father was scared. His father thought that his wife laid down with an angel. And this was a baby, one of the children of the fallen angel. Noah shined like the sun, and his skin was white as snow. When he has his kids, he had one that was burnt, dark, Ham, because Ham means burnt. And he had one that was brown skinned, black man, brown skin. But the burnt was Ham. The dark brown olive color was Shem. That's what these names mean. Shem means dark brown olive, olivey dark brown. That's what the name Shem means. Knowledge. Ham means burnt. That's the meaning of that name. Japheth means, you know what a Japheth is? A Japheth is a white stone. What does that tell you? That means that the so-called Caucasian man would take up 1/3 of the world population. There's 3 sons. One was very dark skinned, the other one was dark skinned, and then the other one was white. He would make up 1/3. That's 3. The 3 sons populated the world. So Japheth would make up 1/3 of the world population. So the two-thirds, the two-thirds will rule the world for most of the time, up until this time. There are some that say the Caucasian has been in rulership for a couple of thousand years, you know. All right, give them 2,000 years they've been in rulership. Okay, fine. The rest of the time was so-called black man all over the world, all over the world. You know, the Arabs were ruling the world for some time. The Arabs, when the children of Japheth, the Ashkenazi, stepped in to help out the Europeans fight off um, the Arabs from the prevent them from coming in through the Straits of Gibraltar. During that time, they were ruling most of the known world, the Arabs. So every complexion, every race has had its moments of rulership, either in particular regions or either ruling the world, however you want to look at it. Knowledge on why the Caucasian man, so-called Caucasian man, this is just my opinion, okay? Knowledge on why the so-called Caucasian man is so gung-ho about changing history, about taking all the heroes and making them his. During the time of the Titans and the great men of the world, during that time, there was no civilization that ruled was so-called black for a long time. And so-called Caucasian man was down at the bottom for so long. So that's why when they finally got rulership, they got to change. They trying to change everything and make themselves seem more superior than what they truly are. Knowledge. Now, if you've known the plight of the so-called Caucasian, if you've known the plight of the so-called Caucasian, and you know the prophecies, like when Noah prophesied about his sons, he prophesied about Ham and what will Ham people be in the future. He prophesied about Shem and what Shem's children would be in the future. And he prophesied about his son Japheth. And Japheth was what? Japheth was the eldest. Now, history, even in your own families, it teaches you this, that the first son of the man usually comes out looking the most like the father. I told you Noah's skin color when he was born, and Japheth was his first son. Japheth inherited the mountain. Japheth inherited the mountain because the ark landed in Ararat, on the mountain of Ararat. I told you that clearly in the scriptures. The ark landed on the mountain of Ararat. And Ararat, Mount Ararat, that region is in Armenia. This is all in the region of the Caucasus Mountains and all of that. The Europeans, knowledge. In the scriptures, it tells you, Noah said that the sons of Japheth would occupy the tents of Shem. Well, we're the tents of Shem. Our home is Israel. Who's occupying our land? The children of Japheth. The children of Japheth. The so-called Caucasian, the Gentiles, the so-called Caucasian Jew. knowledge. I only came out for a little while, man, because I wanted to talk to you guys about knowledge. And there's knowledge, man, that, our people have a lack of it. And we die because of that. A lot of our brothers and sisters are born into the world and they don't know, you know, right now, man, with the advent of welfare and all that stuff, man, the way things have been, you have a lot of females out there just spitting out children to get money, you know, having children, kicking the men out of the house. Or you got a lot of our so-called black men, they don't know what they're born for. They were raised without fathers. They're going around making babies all over the place. And a lot of these children are born and they don't have no direction. And that's sad. They don't know what they're supposed to do with themselves. They have no direction. And that's sad. Gain knowledge, gain wisdom, gain understanding. Whenever you can ask questions, ask questions. Whenever there's something to that you don't know about, try to find knowledge about it. When it comes to the scriptures and you read the scriptures and you're reading certain things in the scriptures, stop and pause and ask questions. I wonder where that is. And go do some research on where it's at, where that region is, where's that place at, and where is it at today? Where's that place at today? The call to the truth and the word of Elohim is a course and a path of gaining knowledge, wisdom, and understanding that we can pass down to our sons and our daughters. And if they're not ready to sit down and listen to you now, they don't want to know it now, write things down. Keep journals. So that'll be the greatest gift you give to them when you're ready to pass on and go to the kingdom that's waiting for you. Don't be selfish. Don't be selfish. Lastly, I'm going to say knowledge. When you read the scriptures, it speaks a lot about guarding. 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 Like to guard something, like to guard something, like when you're guarding something. Scriptures speak a lot about guarding the word Elohim. I don't know if I've ever said this before, but make sure those you give this truth to, make sure they're worthy of it. Because brothers and sisters, most people are not worthy of the word of truth. Hence, many are called, but only few are chosen. Be blessed. Walk with your head up. Walk in faith. And walk in knowledge, wisdom, and understanding. Out.